Teachers, what was the best smartass response from a student you have heard? My coworker Brian loved telling everyone about his weekend teaching job at a prestigious prep school. He'd been there 15 years, bragging about how strict he was and how kids today needed real discipline. I taught at the public high school across town, and we'd get into these debates during lunch breaks. Last month, Brian invited me to observe his Saturday calculus class. He wanted to show me how real teaching looked. I sat in the back corner with my coffee, ready to watch the master at work. 20 kids filed in wearing blazers and ties, looking half asleep. Brian started his lesson on derivatives. He was writing formulas on the board when this kid in the front row raised his hand. Brian ignored him and kept writing. The kid kept his hand up for 5 whole minutes. Finally, Brian sighed and turned around. "What is it, Lucas?" Lucas stood up slowly. "Mr. Henderson, you made an error in line 3. The derivative of x squared is 2x, not x squared plus 1. Brian's face turned red. He stared at the board, then at Lucas. "Young man, I've been teaching calculus since before you were born. Sit down." But Lucas didn't sit. "Actually, sir, my dad says you've been teaching it wrong since before I was born too. He's an MIT professor. He helped me check your work from last week." The whole class went silent. Brian's hand was shaking as he gripped the marker. "Your father doesn't know what we're teaching here. This is advanced placement calculus." Lucas pulled out a folder. "That's weird because he literally wrote the AP calculus textbook. Page 247, example 3. You've been teaching it backwards for years." Brian grabbed the textbook from his desk, flipping through pages frantically. Other students started pulling out their phones, recording everything. One girl whispered, "Lucas has been waiting 3 months for this moment." See, what Brian didn't know was that Lucas had been documenting every mistake Brian made all semester. Not to be mean, but because Brian had failed Lucas's older sister 2 years ago, telling her she wasn't smart enough for advanced math. She was at Stanford now, majoring in mathematics. Brian found the page and his face went white. The textbook showed exactly what Lucas said. Brian had been teaching this concept wrong for over a decade. Hundreds of students had learned incorrect math because he was too arrogant to double-check his work. Lucas wasn't done. "I have 17 more examples if you'd like to review them. My sister Sarah kept all her tests. You marked her answers wrong when they were actually right. She could have gotten into MIT with the correct grades." Brian started sweating. The whole class was recording now. Lucas calmly returned to his seat and opened his notebook. "Should I assume today's lesson will also have errors, or would you like to check your work first?" One student in the back started slow clapping. Then another joined. Soon the whole class was applauding Lucas while Brian stood frozen at the board. He tried to continue the lesson but kept stopping to double-check every equation. After class, Brian cornered me in the hallway. "Did you see what that kid did? He humiliated me in front of everyone." I took a sip of my coffee. "Sounds like he taught you something about checking your work, maybe also about humility." Brian quit teaching 2 weeks later. The video went viral at the prep school. They had to review every grade Brian had given in 15 years. Dozens of students got their transcripts corrected. Lucas got into MIT early admission. His application essay was about standing up to authority when they're wrong. The admissions officer who read it was his dad's former student. She wrote one word on his file. "Finally." Brian works at an insurance company now. Last I heard, he triple checks every calculation.